This is Leadership in Action, and I'm Casey Cheshire. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of Boston area innovators. Sponsored by the Boston chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. This is Leadership in Action. I hit a button and the roller coaster, the magic begins. The rockets launch to the sky. The Boston fireworks are shooting off everywhere. Man, today's conversation is going to be such, I can't wait to dive into it. The myth, all the content. But wait, who are we talking to today? That is a very special part of today. Mm-hmm. He's an entrepreneur, an investor, creator, an advisor, all around badass, 20-year veteran in the finance world, mm-hmm. Best dressed member of EO Boston, guaranteed, partner at Everybody Fights, senior partner at CFG Brokerage Network. Mike Moran, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks for having me. Probably won't be that exciting. I'm a little boring sometimes, but we'll try to have some fun with it.
Boring, but so well dressed, sir. We're gonna have to get fashion advice from you so that all the CEOs in the room here listening can upgrade their look. And if you're listening, you need to go to YouTube. You can check out. This is casual Mike right here. Absolutely. Let's get into this. So the question is, what is a common misconception about leadership, running a business, and being an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. It's challenging. I think the biggest misconception that I see out there is once your company reaches a certain amount of financial success or growth, or people perceive that it's really busy, so it must be doing really well, it becomes easier, right? Once you ramp out of that startup phase or whatever it might be. And in my experience, it actually becomes more challenging, right? Because from, running a small organization where it might just be you starting out to running a larger organization and have many different people with you, it's just as challenging, just in different ways, right? When you own a company and you're in an environment or you're traveling, whatever it is, you always have to be on, right? There is no downtime in my experience, right? And it's, how you communicate with your peers or people that work with you, team members, employees, you always have to pay attention to how that is. You have to be empathetic. You should be, very polite. The leader's job is to stay calm when there's stressful situations going on. If you're having a bad month, if you're having a bad quarter, whatever it is, the leader's job to fight through that and get everybody through, because it's not about you anymore, right? It's about everybody else. It's really hard, and you got to be conscious of how people think. So a lot of times people think, behind the scenes that the leader's not working as much. Well, in my experience, that 9 out of 10 times, that's not the case, right? So I think those are some of the things, and it's mentally challenging all the time. Right? Everything is important as a leader, some more than others certainly, but the great leaders that I see always are very thoughtful around how they act, how they present themselves, everything.
How they act, how they present themselves. Absolutely. Where does this myth come from? Why is this just wishful thinking? Why is this a common misconception?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times when a company reaches success or a business owner reaches success, and maybe all that's seen is if they travel a lot, right? If they drive a nice car, if they have a nice home, all that stuff, I think comes into play. I know in my experience when I was young, before I owned my first company, I would always think that way, right? I would think, oh my God, and I still think that way. Not about it's easy. One of my challenges, I always want more, and that's just a mental thing that I've had as a kid. But it's like, oh my God, this person has done such a great job, must be easy because they have either sold their company for a significant amount or they're running a large company. But the reality is that life doesn't get easier. It just gets different. It gets challenging in different ways. to make sure that, as a leader of something.
It's such a great point you make. I had a really, really cool conversation with a young entrepreneur. And I mean young by like where they're at in this sort of journey of founding companies. And he was asking me that same question that you're smashing here. Does it get easier? And I think he was dealing with, some recent, it's always the HR issues, right? Some recent hiring issues. It's all about people, man. People power this thing. He was like, hey, does this get easier? And it's like, well, not to knock your pain, because he had lost just several $1,000s, but at every different step of the way of the journey, your $1,000 meant more to you then, but then that problem is only bigger later, where maybe now you lost 30, or maybe you lost 300, or maybe but so it's the scale sort of evolves with you. And yeah, I've seen that too, where the problems get bigger, but you're a little bit bigger, you can handle them. It's like an evolution, though. It's a growth process.
Sure. I'll quote a mentor of mine.
Oh yeah.
He'll laugh. He sees this, and it's all about S curves, right? So you'll run really at the beginning. It'll start slow, and then you'll ramp real quick, right? And then a lot of times somebody or a company will plateau, right? So then you have to make adjustments again to get that ramp again. And then you might plateau, or challenges or different things come into play. You might reach capacity, right? Then you got to S curve. Then you got to solve it, right? To ultimately, you get to that point, and hopefully you reach financial success, whatever that looks like to everybody.
Yeah, those curves really are a son of a gun, right? Like, especially that early success, you're like, I can do no wrong. And then the wrong happens. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
And it takes a little bit of fortitude to get through that downturn and to reinvent yourself, to your point, to be able to get that next uptick. But man, I think I've seen it called like the valley of despair sometimes, or disillusion, because you're like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't nearly as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, right. There's always capacity issues, always.
Yeah. And when there isn't, that's a problem too.
That's right. That's right.
Earlier saying it's still challenging, but in different ways. And then you started talking about the different ways you've seen other people and even yourself address this and address the slingshots back and forth. You mentioned a couple of things. I wondered if you could go over some of the ways you think how we can best adjust and adapt to the challenges. I know you mentioned thoughtful in how you act, thoughtful in how you present yourself. I don't know if you have just a list that comes to mind of the ways you really can impact this.
Yeah, it's I think the biggest challenge, one of my toughest challenges personally is I never had a strong skill set in patience, right? And so like I'm always like, everything is go and everything's got to be done quick. And sometimes if I'm up against time, right, I don't have a calming demeanor sometimes, right? So one of the things that I've been trying to practice, and I still got a long way to go, and everybody handles it different, might be breathing differently. It might be just taking, I didn't believe this when people say it. They just take a deep breath, and for some reason that works for me lately. Not all the time. And if my wife sees this, she'll definitely probably disagree with me. But in a work environment, at least, you're always trying to stay calm, right? Or even if you're not calm, and even if you're stressed out, you always have to put a smile on and be positive as much as you can. Right? It's really hard. It sounds really simple. But the people, especially during the pandemic and different things, everybody was challenged, right? Yeah. But it's for the leadership to say, no, we got this, right? We're going to get through this. We're going to make it, and always be positive. And then behind the door, once you close the door, you might be like, oh shit, like, what are we going to do? But you can't show that emotion.
As you were describing that, especially up against time, and I thought about some of the times when something is urgent, or I want something to change right now. I think what I've done is as I've used energy instead of words, right? So I've talked in either a nervous way or I've talked in an excited way when I probably could have done a better job by describing it in a better way, describing what I want. I need this to happen by 2 p.m. Please, right? As opposed to be like, guys, this is so urgent. Like, we can't let this happen, blah, blah, blah. Like, and so instead of having the wild energy released to your point, conveying that information and staying calm, staying positive. Hey, when you get this done, let's go. It'll be fine. Yeah. So what about the be positive all the time and the smile? Is there a time to not be positive, or do you just whitewash the whole time, or not?
Like that. Is there a time? I think one of the things about leadership is it's absolutely really important to have really tough, difficult conversations sometimes, right? With really good people that might work with you or for you, however you want to put it. I consider all the people that everybody works with me, right? But sometimes you have to have really challenging conversations and really direct conversations. And I think that's where sometimes it's just really hard to be positive in those things. And it's okay if, someone is not doing the job because of one reason or another. Maybe they just don't love it, or maybe they're not into it. It's okay to just part as friends, right? And so those are the things where I think you have to, as a leader, it's really important to make decisions, really important to make decisions relatively quickly if needed. And sometimes those aren't always positive.
Make them quickly. And how even myself, how often do we wrestle with these things? Even before we got on this podcast, I had one of those things where and I'm like, can I delay on this? Maybe I should make it right now. And then what was interesting is my normal voice said, man, how long can we delay on this? That'd be great. And then this other voice was like, you know what? Something about what you've learned over time. I think the right answer is actually the opposite. I think the right answer is like, no, let's make a decision right now, and not delay. Have you ever dealt with the sort of pushing off the decision making?
Absolutely. Sometimes I get caught in that situation. Another mentor, aim, then fire, right? I think, and I can talk about this later, I'm reading this book, Playing to Win, and it's all around building strategy, right? And I just started, but I'm really interested because I think that when you're making strategic decisions, like really important ones, I'm big on having a strategy to determine success and the outcome, right? Think with the end in mind. I'm a big believer in that when you have to make big decisions. But sometimes, unfortunately, you don't have a choice. You just have to go with it and go with your gut. And hopefully that your experience as a leader will point you in the right direction. And many times I make the wrong decision. That's okay. And you learn from it.
Absolutely, man. Full of notes on this one. Learning from those things is just critical, right? And I think maybe that's the thing that saves us is like, make the decision. I'll learn from what happens. But that might be the mindset that gets you from delaying so much, as if you're like, well, I'm going to make this call and I'll reassess if it was the right thing to do, but I can't delay. It'd be better not to aim like you're talking about.
Yeah, sometimes you have to, or sometimes an opportunity pops up and you have to jump on it. You kind of go blind, and just hopefully it's not one of those decisions that you lose a ton of money, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it's one of those ones that works out. But trust me, I've made plenty of those where I did lose a lot of money, and I learned from it. I don't regret it, but wish I aimed a little bit longer.
Yeah, like maybe Twitter stock,
Yeah. I wish I bought Bitcoin.
Oh, Bitcoin? Yeah, wasn't there a thing where it was like
$20
and now it's worth like 20 grand or something? I don't
what
know
are you going to do? Right.
what you can do. I saw some post, some internet video where some dad found 6 Bitcoin on like an old laptop he had. Like 6 full ones.
Unbelievable.
It's like, ooh, let's
It's
cash those
unbelievable.
puppies in. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you mentioned that book, Playing to Win. Is that
hmm
the most recommended book you have these days? Is that your thing, your go-to?
So it's funny. Right. I'm a business book person.
Are
I'm
you?
not a cat. Yeah. So like, but I listen, read, a combination of both, and I forget a lot of them. That's
Yeah.
the honest answer. So that's the
Yeah.
most recent one that I like. So that's the one I'm going with today. Um,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I heard the other day that Warren Buffett reads 4 hours a day, and maybe he's reading financial newspapers. I don't know, but I'm with you. Like some of these things, they stick, they don't stick. That book, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, that
love
negotiation
it.
book.
Love it.
Love it. I did too. I love the
Love it.
stories, and for the life of me, I can't remember any takeaways from it. So every time I meet people, they're like, "That's my favorite book." I'm like, "What did you learn from that?" Other than it's
Mm,
really interesting being a hostage negotiator. And the other day, I actually caught
yeah.
a TED talk. He talked to the Google folks,
Mm,
and there's a video of that where he broke down a couple of the takeaways. But sometimes the challenge is like you remember the story, but you're like, "How do I even apply this?"
yeah. So I'll listen to them. Like even after I read them, I'll go back and listen to them again.
Interesting.
Or part, like if I'm driving, and then if I want to get fired up, if I got a big presentation going, let's say I'm traveling for a big, I'll always listen to the shortened version of the Art of War.
Really? Tell me
Yeah.
about what is it? It's a shortened version.
Yeah, it's like a summary, like 8 quick chapter on Audible,
Okay,
the
so it's
Art of
on
War, and
Audible.
it just talks about like you know um making sure that you challenge an enemy at their weakest in their weaknesses, right? Don't challenge them at their strengths, different things. Pretty interesting.
So I'm looking up.
One of my
So, Art of War does it titled something differently? Does it titled like abridged or shortened?
the Art of War.
Oh, so you said it's a shorter one. I see one that's like an hour and
Yeah.
7 minutes.
Oh, it's probably that long,
Yeah,
but the regular book, is a lot longer.
yeah. I see one that's like 4 hours and 20 minutes and 2 hours, 6 hours for this other one. That's a different one. But okay, so yeah, I see one right here. It's an hour and 7 minutes. So you're saying right before getting into a meeting and you really need to be there ready to go to town, you just throw a little Art of War on the car ride over, come ready to take on
Yeah.
the enemy.
Maybe it's just a couple of chapters.
Yeah. Well, tell me about that. I mean, if you've listened to it several times, is there a particular takeaway that you've gotten from that?
It just
One or
gets
two?
my mind right.
Get
So a
your
lot
mind
of
right.
times it's just about getting focused, right? So a lot of times as a leader or an entrepreneur, right, your mind's all over the place. So if I have a big meeting, I want to make sure that I'm clear,
Yeah.
I'm focused. I'll probably over prepare for that meeting, just so I can see what's coming at me and try to predict what's going to come at me.
Man, that sounds like a formidable strategy.
That's why I like boxing.
Yeah.
Boxing is right. You got to prepare.
Well, I think this ties even into your earlier point. I mean, I can see boxing doing this too. The idea of the successful business owner at that level above whatever you're at currently. Anyone out there listening, that one who's higher than you, right? Or I always tell the story. There's an airport in Nashua, and there's private jets that land there. And I always think, oh, you. But we're seeing the rewards. To your point, we're seeing the outcome of all the investment, like the marathon running. It isn't that 2 hours right there. It's the years and the months and days and 48 hours of running that occurred before that. So, to that point, with all these other ones, it's boxing. It must be the same thing. It's not that day, the 2 minute, how many of the rounds, like, right? It's not the rounds, it's all the prep that went into it.
everything from running to, I see some of these boxers at our gyms, and it's just amazing to watch how much they train.
Wow.
Right. To do a 8-round fight, a 12-round fight, 10-round fight, whatever it is. And it's really hard. Right. You think, 3 minutes, that's not that hard. Whew. 3 minutes is really hard when someone's trying to punch you.
It is. I've done some of those, I think it's one of those gyms called 8-round or something like that. And
9-round. Yep.
Oh, no, is it 9-round? Yeah. And yeah, you're right. 3 minutes of intensity is a long time. Or anyone that's ever gotten a real fight, 30 seconds is a long time. So when you see a UFC fighter gas out after 20 minutes of going full tilt, you don't quite appreciate it unless you've actually tried to do 1 round.
Yeah, really hard.
So it's all that training that went into it that led to them to be able to perform at that particular point in time.
Right. The same thing is in business.
Yeah.
Right? You always got to stay sharp. And, right. EO is one of those things that helps me stay sharp, helps me think about things I'm not thinking about, which is really important. I don't want to live in my own bubble and, not be constantly trying to learn something.
Right. You're right. It's definitely a bubble buster, right? Because you end up interfacing with leaders outside your industry. I know for me, for a long time, I was, my last company was all about Salesforce, and we were in that ecosystem 100%. Like all the events we went to, because why would you go to an event that isn't in your, doesn't have your customer in it, right? So all my things were there, but then, you're in an echo chamber. Your LinkedIn becomes an echo chamber because you're only talking to the same people and the same thought leaders, whatnot. But you're right, with EO, you're talking to, bricklayers and accountants and masons and advisors and fence builders, like everyone.
Sure. Absolutely. And it's great to see different perspectives.
Yeah, it really is. Really is great to see that. How about the future? Do you see anything coming around the corner? Maybe some changes happening, and you're excited to see where the future goes with this?
Yeah, I think as I get older and start to get more experiences, right? I think there's a couple different things I think about in the future. I think, I can't predict, but I think that the economy, the way life is, right? We just all went through this pandemic. It always changes, right? There's always something going on. Like no matter if you own a business, you're a leader of a business, or you're just an individual, there's always challenges. So I feel like as I continue to get older, it's much easier for me to tackle those challenges, whether they're financial, personal life, etc. So I think as we come out of the pandemic, life's just different, right? Things are different. It gives an opportunity for us to take advantage on some of the changes, whether it's people working from home, whether it's just the way people communicate on Zoom now, right? I know many of us have been using Zoom for a very, very long time, but not everybody. Now it's like normal life. And so I think that, I think there's great opportunity to take advantage of some of the things, right? Like I think, and I hope this to be true, that people start going back to the gym, right? And I believe that they will. I believe that, in the financial service industry, and that's, what I do most of the time, I believe that people always need guidance and they want to talk to someone, right? So I don't think, obviously there's always fintech and technology coming into the financial service world.
Right. Apps and stuff.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I believe that people like to call someone and say, if they are looking for an advisor, they look what do you think? What would you do if you were me? Right? Take me through a process to help me make a good financial decision versus having to research and do it on your own. Now, I think people will research. When I first started in 2001, 2002, right? It was a little different. There wasn't not everybody did all the research, or they didn't have all the accessibility to the stuff that they do now, right? So it's okay that people research, but at the end of the day, people are still going to, especially if they're making tough financial decisions, they're going to want to talk to somebody that is an expert in that field. And that's why, so I'm still very positive on the financial service industry and what we provide.
Yeah.
The reality is, with the growth of real estate and the way the market's been for the last 10 years, people are just a lot wealthier than they were 10 years ago, right? Just
Right.
even if they didn't get raises in their job, just wealth has grown in certain parts of the industry.
Yeah.
Or in the geographic area.
Right. But we are getting out, right? Masks aren't required anymore. We are getting back out there. And so you're right to call out what were the ways we were acting beforehand. And unless there's some other reason for it not to return to that, of course it would, because it happened in the first place because we wanted to work out in a place other than our home or with the people around us. Some people want that home gym and no one to interrupt them.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want the energy that comes from everyone else kicking their own butt at the same time,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So getting back out to the old normal will be interesting. I'm sure, some things will remain the same. Some people working more from home and that kind of thing. But at the same time, just as many as the introverts are excited to stay home, there are also people, or those with long commutes, there's also people that are dying to get back out there and hang out with people.
And if you think about it, not everyone has the ability to work from home. What I mean by that is, if you think about, a very expensive condo in Boston right now, or apartment in Boston, it's really expensive. And if you and your significant other are there and it's a 1-bedroom, right? Like, it's really hard to be able to work at home together.
Right.
If you're both doing that. So, and just the same, it's really hard in the city to work out. Right now in the suburbs, it might be different. So it's coming up with those different things that the new world is like.
Yeah. What are the new things and all that? Yeah, absolutely, man. My next question is just, who are you? I've known you for a while, but take me back to little Mike days. What was it like growing up? Did you know you're going to become, an entrepreneur, running business, advisor, a creator, a founder, all these things?
No, little Mike.
Little Mike. What was it like?
When I was a kid, my early teens, I would get in a lot of trouble. I was not on a great path, and which is probably, I have 2 really good parents, right? They were really loving, and I was very lucky to have that. Even though I didn't grow up, they were divorced at an early age. They were amazing. Getting in a lot of trouble, not doing well in school. I can't put a finger on why, but it is what it is. At age 15, I was out with a group of friends, and I was being a punk, and I was I was hanging outside of a strip mall, and what I thought was a really ugly, beat up car, which is really stupid, a punk. And we made fun of it, right? So car went to the end of the strip mall, turned around and ran me and my friend over and took off and left. And I broke my entire face.
No
I had a
way.
major concussion. My teeth came out, or the jaw all came down. And then I was homeschooled for a month. Luckily, my brain stopped bleeding and major concussion, and I lived.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they caught the person 3 or 4 days later. They found a broken front windshield, and they found. So, long story short, what happened, the really positive part of that story, it changed my life, and it changed my life for the better. I started to get good grades. I ended up going to college. I ended up being a financial advisor right out of college. And it made me think about always not to have regrets, always to appreciate everything because it could be taken away really quick. It taught me to appreciate people's kindness and always be aware of people's kindness. It sounds cliche, but it really taught me to live every day like it's my last. And I don't do that, right? But sometimes I think I do. But it does make me make decisions that might be a little riskier or a little outside the box or possibly a little aggressive than I wouldn't have prior. So that's me.
How I mean, was just, and can you explain it? You're just homeschooled, you're recovering, and then something was like,
30
I don't
days,
want
yeah.
any more of this, or like, what made you do that 180?
It's really scary for those that have when you almost die. It's like, you're sitting there, and I've had another major concussion when I was 29, a bad accident, and so, but when you almost die, it gives you a different perspective on life. To me, it did. And you're like, oh, I don't want to live like that, or I want to make something of my life, or, I'm 42 now, so I don't know exactly what I was thinking about at 15, but I know this. I know it. I was failing out of school prior, and then I got better, right? And then I started going to class, and I just appreciated it more. I appreciated the opportunity that my parents were giving me to go to public school and to live the life. So I just appreciated things more. And that what made me change that perspective.
Wow. Well, I can just see in that teenage mind, you're just like, I want more than this. This is also not my story.
Yeah.
It's not how I'm going out,
Yeah.
How'd your friend fare? Did they make a turn as well? Were they kind of?
They broke a leg.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as bad. So they didn't miss any school or anything, but they turned it around as well.
Man, weird, but I mean, how is it a blessing? It's weird to think about now though, right? I mean, it's such a traumatic thing, but at the same time, you turned it around. Like, how do you label that nowadays? That whole experience.
It was life-changing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just had to get implants in my teeth finally so I knew they were going to have to come out at some point. From 15, just did it. So that was not a great experience getting implants in your teeth, but it just I think it shaped a lot of who I am.
Yeah. Powerful. You know what? I can't tell. Again, you're the best dressed guy in all of EO.
Oh, thanks.
You're our cover model.
Yeah. Don't let some of my friends know you said that.
No, put you on all the marketing. I'm like, wow, they dress really nice at EO events. Yeah, well, Mike does. Oh man, what a powerful story, man. I'm so glad that you're able to come through that, but also, that now I know you because of all the things you've created and met you at EO as well. And you were at what age at that point?
15.
Normally I ask this question of, if you can go back in time and meet yourself in your early 20s, what kind of advice would you give yourself? Would you talk to that person, or was that person almost on their way? But what kind of things would you tell yourself?
It's a great question. I thought a lot about this. We talked a lot about some of the business mistakes I've made and investments I've made that didn't go well. And I don't regret any of those, right? Because I learned from it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not wealthy enough that it didn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
It matters, but I don't regret them. What I do regret, coming up, even in my early 20s, when I spend time with my family and loved ones, I'm not always present. And again, you've probably heard this before, but one thing I'd change, like I wish I'd always be on the move. I'm still always on the move, but when I'm with my family and loved ones, I try to be as present as I can be. And again, that doesn't happen all the time, especially like during the week, right? During the week, things come at you. But if I could turn back time, I would tell myself to, focus more on being present with family, at least on the weekends or something like that.
Yeah. Do you have any strategies how you do that now?
Nope.
Still working on it. Me
So,
too.
yes, yeah. Still very much working on it.
I wonder if there's something around. I've heard some people talk about like giving yourself some time to decompress when you come home. So that you're not still thinking about that thing. You got to sort of work it through and then be able to focus. Otherwise, it's just going to be too much of a draw. Some kind of way of, and also hopefully not working at home too. I have a friend who the office is in the same room as the bed, and it's like, the same place you go to war is the same place that you're trying to lay down your head and rest. That's tough. But separating
really
things
tough.
out, drawing a line.
I do not have a solution. I just got to be cognizant of it. Try to do it. I try, little things like I use 2 cell phones, like one's personal, one's work, and so at least I can try to shut off.
Like a drug dealer.
Stuff. Yeah, I know.
Oh, is that what they're doing? Is that what the drug dealers are doing?
Yeah.
They're separating work from home, so they've got their work phone but that's actually an interesting idea because you're right. I mean, do I have the fortitude to not check the email? Sometimes I just click it automatically, and it's like, how did that get up there? Well, because I touched it, because I'm so used to having it load.
And I'm still not good at that, right? I still check my phone all the time, which I get it, anyway. But I don't have a solution, but try for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress, right? That's what we're all doing at EO. Really, it's just figuring out every step of the way, and there's always something to improve.
Yeah, definitely.
So, how can people connect with you if they want to reach out? What's some good platforms, some good URLs, websites, all that jazz?
Yeah, sure. I think probably my website, but my email is always good. On the financial side, Mike Moran at financialguide.com. Probably the easiest one.
That's a good one. Is that your domain?
No.
Okay.
No.
Like Financial Guide, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about websites?
Easy.
For the partners, for the group, for the gym, all that.
Yeah. Yep. So it's cfgbrokerage.network.com. That's one of them. And then for Everybody Fights, it's everybodyfights.com.
There it is.
So that one, and I would say go on there, try a free class. If you tried 9 rounds, you should definitely try Everybody Fights. It's fun.
Okay.
And I believe there is an EO discount for all members.
Oh, no kidding.
So, but try it. Reach out, try it. Try it for a week.
Yeah. Oh, you got New Hampshire locations. What the hell? What?
Yeah, that's one of our franchises. So we are a franchisor as well.
Oh, wow. You got New Hampshire, Mass, Illinois, New York, Georgia. Hell yeah, man. Seaport, Saugus, and where's that last? The Fighty? Where's that at? Downtown?
Oh, the Financial District. Yeah.
Oh, Financial District.
1 Federal Street. Yeah, that one's fun.
Wow. So and where's that New Hampshire location? Studio Rock.
Salem.
You got some fighters out in the Salem area. We gotta get one in. Get one in Nashua. Yeah. Oh, great photos, man. So I'll just encourage everybody get a class over Everybody Fights. Get the EO discount in there. Yeah. Work yourself out a little bit.
Try it. One of my partners is also an EO member.
Oh, hell yeah. What's his name?
Anthony.
Shout out to Anthony.
Yeah.
Something about smashing something with your fist versus say, curling something or shooting something with a, it's just one of those, it's very primal, right? It's just something about that act,
Great stress reliever.
Yeah.
Great. It's great.
In the back of my mind, it's like, this is a double use practical exercise right now. I am getting healthier and I am preparing my weapons in case I ever need them.
Absolutely.
So good. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on here, man. This has been a lot of fun, hashing out topics with you, talking about the future. talking about training, the S curves, decisions, playing to win, all the different things you've been throwing out there. I just really appreciate this.
Awesome. Casey, thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing you at the next EO event. Make sure it's fun now that we're all going to be getting back together again.
Oh, yeah, I'm dying to do that, man. It's been great to start getting back at those in-person EO events for sure. And next, I want to speak to everyone listening. So if you have learned something, and I know you have because I have freaking 2 pages of notes front and back over here, then share this episode with somebody else. That is the definition of thought leadership. It's just getting content that you found valuable into other people's hands. Share it on LinkedIn, on the platforms you like. Hey, 1 person, 2 people, 3,000 people, whatever it is. Just get this content in other people's hands. Conversations that Mike talked us through around the challenge that increases, but the way we can handle it, the patience, the decision making, the tough conversations, all these good things. Really important to get this to other people's hands. And with that, Mike, thank you again, sir, for a great time.
Thank you, Casey. See you soon.
All right, everybody. This has been another exciting episode of Leadership in Action. We will see you all next time. Leadership in Action is sponsored by the Boston chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. As the world's only peer-to-peer network exclusively for entrepreneurs, EO helps transform the lives of those who transform the world.